Good evening, everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about ill will from Buddhist perspective. I mean, uh, what kind of a interpretation Buddhism has to say about ill will, and what role ill will plays in clouding our concentration, and what kind of a treatment that we could learn from Buddhism to deal with ill will. Okay, so what is ill will in the Buddhist thought? Ill will simply means that if somebody is to have any thoughts of killing, assassinating, destroying other beings, including oneself, that is called ill will. So it is usually at the thinking stage, so nobody ever knows, unless oneself. So it's really important to understand ill will because it is often found out, noticed at the personal level without getting noticed by other people unless that person is gonna share those feelings. So, does ill will really cloud our concentration? Yes, it really clouds our concentration. When it comes to the Buddhist concentration, as we know in Pali, Buddha says, kusala chittasya ekagata samadhi. So, samadhi simply means the concentration of the skillful thoughts. So, since ill will is a part of five hindrances, it really clouds that concentration. So, we really want to learn a good way to deal with this bad feeling, this bad thought actually. So I understand, we all understand the best type of teachings about the counterbalancing ill will is loving kindness. But the problem is a practical methodology. We all know loving kindness is very important, but when it comes to the practical nature of the situation, a lot of people are struggling. So I find a good way to counterbalance this scenario from Insight Meditation Center from the United States. They bring up a nice way which is called RAIN. It's an acronym actually to deal with ill will. Even though we know loving kindness is the virtue that we have to use for this, but they actually, introduce a nice methodology to deal with this ill will with loving kindness. So let's take a look at what RAIN stands for. So RAIN means R, actually, at the beginning. R stands for recognize. So we need to recognize any type of thoughts of ill will, resentment, any hatred, because they actually escalate, to ill will, right? So if we can recognize this ill will at that level, and that's one of the most ways of understanding this particular nature of the thought. Second, A stands for accept. So we need to accept we have this thought at this point. That's the second thing that we can do. And I means investigate. If the thoughts of ill will do not stop at those two levels, we could use investigation. How we can investigate the thoughts of ill will? We could investigate from multiple ways. One is to see any physical type of perspective of the ill will. For example, like does this thought of ill will really give me any pain? Or is it really pleasurable or painful or neutral or whatever? Also, one could investigate by emotional levels. For example, like what type of feelings does this thoughts of ill will give to me actually? So that's one of the other ways of looking at it. Also, one could possibly see the motivational side. What kind of an urge does it give to me when I have these thoughts of ill will? Also, one could see the cognitive side, what kind of stories, do those ill will type of thoughts give to me, right? So that is investigation. Someone can use investigation to deal with at that point. And last, it is actually N. N stands for non-identification. This is a very good thing. Usually when something happens to us, regardless of hatred or ill will, we usually going to make it as ourselves. For example, like we actually seeing the scenario that made us to come up with this ill will thought as we are actually. We don't see as it is. So since we are going to make it ourselves, that's why the problem gets escalated actually. So if we see the scenario situation that causes us to come up with those ill will thoughts, then we're not going to make it ourselves. Rather, we're going to see it as it is. So then actually we're going to use the independent nature of the situation, not connecting that to ourselves. So we can stop that. That helps us to stop that thought too. So once again, I would repeat this RAIN methodology. RAIN means that it's an acronym to tackle with ill will. R stands for recognize, A stands for accept, I stands for investigate, and N stands for non-identification with oneself. So as I told you at the beginning, even we know that loving kindness or metta is the best way to deal with ill will or thoughts of killing, destroying other people. But if we don't have a methodology to tackle with this, we're in trouble. That's why I also actually agree with this RAIN methodology proposed by the Insight Meditation Center. So hopefully that would work for all of us. So once again, I want to share with you the interpretation of ill will. Ill will simply means that if somebody is having some thoughts of killing, destroying other people, not even killing, destroying, but also having thoughts to tarnishing the good image of other people, probably on social media, on printed media or electronic media. That's also a part of thoughts of ill will. So we should not develop any such thought. If you have such thoughts, you should understand metta, loving kindness, is the remedy. But when it comes to the methodology of loving kindness, you could mostly use RAIN acronym for dealing with that situation. So I hope that you understood what is ill will or vyapada, and the best virtue, which is called metta, for handling that those type of situations with those thoughts, and a practical methodology suggested by Insight Meditation Center. Thank you so much.